Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this exciting debate presentation. We're thrilled to have you here as we explore the different sides for our topic, which is should genetic testing be mandatory for athletes in African countries to prevent genetic doping in sports? Due to unforeseen circumstances, our esteemed course participant, Dr. Muhammad Al Mahi, was unable to record their video presentation as originally planned. However, they have put significant effort into preparing this entire presentation. To ensure that their valuable insights are shared with everyone, I'll be recording the presentation on their behalf. We appreciate your understanding and look forward to delivering the content as intended. So, today we address a significant issue at the crossroads of genetics and sports: genetic testing and the ethical implication of genetic doping. Genetic testing involves analyzing an individual's DNA to identify specific genes that influence physical abilities, health risks, or vulnerabilities. This technology offers valuable insights but also raises questions about its impact on athletics. Genetic doping, on the other hand, is the manipulation of genes to artificially enhance performance, such as increasing muscle mass or endurance. This practice challenges the fairness of sports and introduces ethical concerns. The debate we face is whether African countries should implement mandatory genetic testing for athletes to detect and prevent genetic doping. While this could help maintain fair play, it also raises issues of privacy, potential discrimination, and integrity of the sport. As we navigate this genetic era, the choices we make will define the future of sports, whether they remain a test of natural human abilities or become something else entirely. The idea of mandatory genetic testing in sports introduces serious ethical, legal, and social risks that are difficult to justify. Such measures could lead to privacy violations, discrimination, and even potential human rights abuse. While the goal of ensuring fair play is important, forcing mandatory testing is a disproportionate and intrusive approach. A more balanced solution would emphasize education, voluntary testing, and other ethical strategies to combat genetic doping. This method respects the right of athletes while still addressing concerns about fairness. Above all, we must prioritize the protection of athletes' rights, including their privacy, bodily autonomy. Ensuring these protections is essential for maintaining trust and integrity in sports. So, I want to highlight key ethical concerns surrounding mandatory genetic testing for athletes. Firstly, privacy is at stake. Requiring athletes to reveal sensitive genetic information can lead to anxiety, discrimination, or even premature career decisions. For instance, an athlete with a genetic predisposition to a disease might face severe stress and career jeopardy for such disclosures. Secondly, mandatory testing challenges the principle of informed consent. Athletes may feel coerced into testing, fearing the exclusion from competition if they refuse. This compromises the ability to make fully informed and voluntary decisions about their own health. Finally, mandatory genetic testing infringes on autonomy and bodily integrity. Athletes should have the right to control their own bodies and make personal decisions without the pressure. Historical resistance to intrusive measures like gender testing underscores the need to respect this fundamental right. In conclusion, while aiming for fairness or safety, we must ensure that ethical principles of privacy, informed consent, and bodily autonomy are upheld. So, on addressing the legal and human rights concerns related to mandatory genetic testing for athletes, firstly, we have a significant risk of discrimination. Genetic testing results could be used to unfairly exclude athletes, such as denying a spot to someone with a genetic predisposition to injury, regardless of their current fitness. This could disproportionately impact athletes from marginalized communities who already face barriers to participate. Secondly, mandatory testing may violate international human rights standards. The Universal Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights emphasizes voluntary participation in genetic testing. Legal precedents like those set by the European Court of Human Rights show the mandatory procedures infringing on personal freedoms can face serious legal challenges. Lastly, there is the potential for misuse of genetic information. History has shown that genetic data can be exploited, leading to unfair treatment or stigmatization, as seen in employment contexts where individuals were denied jobs based on genetic predispositions. So, while intended to improve fairness or safety, mandatory genetic testing raises serious concerns about discrimination, legal violations, and misuse. It's crucial to safeguard athletes' rights and ensures that any practices are ethically sound and legally compliant. And last but not least, the social and cultural impacts of mandatory genetic testing for athletes. This issue extends beyond ethics and legality. It touches deeply on cultural sensitivities and the future of talent development. First, let us discuss cultural sensitivities. In many African communities, there is a deep seated distrust of genetic science, often stemming from historical and cultural factors. Genetic information is viewed as profoundly personal, and collecting it without explicit consent can lead to significant backlash. For example, in some communities, any attempt to mandate genetic testing could provoke resistance and undermine trust in sports organizations, highlighting the importance of respecting cultural beliefs and practices. Next, consider the impact on talent development. The focus on genetic testing could shift attention away from nurturing and developing talent. If young athletes know that they might face mandatory genetic testing, they might be discouraged from pursuing sports altogether. This potential deterrent could lead to limiting the pool of emerging talents and negatively affect the development of sports at the grassroots level. For instance, a promising young athlete might lose their passion for sport out of fear, depriving the sports community of a future star. So that it's very crucial to consider its broader social and cultural impacts. We must respect cultural beliefs and ensure that our approach to athlete testing doesn't stifle talent development. To wrap up our discussion, it's essential to reflect on the broader implications of mandatory genetic testing for athletes. While the intention behind such measures may be to protect the integrity of sports, we must consider whether they might cause more harm than good. Mandatory genetic testing has the potential to infringe on athletes' fundamental rights and privacy. It risks alienating those who feel their personal information is being unfairly scrutinized or used against them. Such an approach could undermine trust and fairness in sports. Fortunately, there are alternative solutions that can effectively address concerns about genetic doping while respecting athletes' rights. We can focus on promoting voluntary testing while athletes choose to undergo tests without feeling coerced. Additionally, educational programs can raise awareness about the dangers of genetic doping, fostering a culture of integrity. Enhancing other anti doping measures can also ensure that we uphold the spirit of fair play without compromising individuals' privacy. In conclusion, safeguarding the integrity of sports should never come at the expenses of athletes' fundamental rights. Instead, we should strive to promote fair play through ethical, non invasive methods that respect privacy and personal autonomy. Let us together work to create a sports environment that upholds both fairness and respect for all athletes. Thank you so much for your attention. We are now pleased to address any questions that you might have.